The notification sound pierced through the quiet apartment like a gunshot, jolting Sarah awake at 2:47 a.m. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she fumbled for her phone, knowing that middle-of-the-night messages meant only one thing: an emergency. Her twins, Emma and Ethan, lay sleeping peacefully in the next room, their gentle breathing the only sound that usually filled these late hours when the world felt too heavy for a single mother carrying it all alone. But this wasn't about the twins. The message glowed on her cracked screen, and Sarah's stomach dropped as she realized her mistake. In her exhaustion after a 16-hour shift at the diner, she had meant to text her sister about picking up extra shifts to cover Emma's upcoming surgery. Instead, she had accidentally sent the message to a wrong number, a message that laid bare her deepest fears and desperate circumstances. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Emma needs surgery and I'm 3 months behind on rent. The twins keep asking why we eat cereal for dinner and I keep lying, telling them it's fun. I'm failing them. I'm failing as a mother and I don't know what to do anymore. I can't lose my babies." The reply came within minutes, from a number she didn't recognize. "I'll be there in an hour. Black limo. We need to talk about the twins." Sarah stared at the screen, her hands trembling. This had to be some kind of cruel joke, or worse, a predator who had somehow intercepted her message of vulnerability. She quickly typed back, "I'm sorry, wrong number. Please ignore my message." The response was immediate. Sarah Martinez, 1247 Oak Street, Apartment 3B. "Your daughter Emma has a heart condition. Your son Ethan excels in mathematics. You work at Mel's Diner on 5th Street. This isn't a wrong number anymore." Terror flooded through her veins. How did this stranger know so much about her life? About her children? Sarah's protective instincts kicked in as she checked the locks on her door and peered through the blinds at the empty street below. She considered calling the police. But what would she tell them? That someone was offering help after she accidentally revealed her private struggles? Exactly 1 hour later, a sleek black limousine pulled up to her rundown apartment building. Sarah watched from her window, her heart pounding, as a tall figure in an expensive suit stepped out. Even from 3 floors up, she could see this wasn't some neighborhood creep. This was someone whose presence commanded attention, whose very posture spoke of power and authority she had never encountered in her working-class world. Her phone buzzed again. "I'm here. My name is Alexander Sterling. I'm not here to hurt you or your children. I'm here because your message reminded me of someone I lost a long time ago, and I believe I can help. 5 minutes of your time, yeah, that's all I'm asking." Sarah's mind raced. Alexander Sterling. Even she, who barely had time to follow news beyond her immediate survival, recognized that name. Sterling Industries, tech mogul, billionaire, the kind of person who existed in a different universe from her daily reality of counting change for milk and praying her old Honda would start each morning. Against every instinct screaming at her to hide, Sarah found herself walking down to the lobby. Something in that last message had shifted her fear toward curiosity. The mention of someone he had lost carried a weight that felt genuine, a pain that echoed her own fears about potentially losing her children to circumstances beyond her control. Alexander Sterling stood by the limo, and Sarah was struck by how different he looked from the polished magazine photos she had glimpsed in grocery store checkout lines. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his usually perfect hair disheveled, and his eyes held a grief so deep it made her own struggles feel temporarily less isolating. "Mrs. Martinez," he said, his voice gentler than she had expected. "Thank you for coming down. I know this must seem insane." "It is insane," Sarah replied, wrapping her thin jacket tighter around herself. "How do you know about my children?" "About my life." Alexander's expression softened further. "When I received your message, I recognized something in your words, a desperation I once felt myself. I have resources, significant resources, and I used them to learn about your situation. I know how that sounds, and I apologize for the invasion of privacy, but I needed to understand if you were truly in need or if this was some kind of elaborate scheme." "And what did you conclude?" Sarah asked, surprised by her own boldness. "That you're exactly who you claimed to be in that message. A mother fighting impossible odds to save her children. A woman working herself to exhaustion while maintaining dignity and love in circumstances that would break most people." He paused, looking up at the building behind her. "You remind me of someone very important to me, someone I failed to help when it mattered most." The raw honesty in his voice made Sarah's defensive walls crack slightly. "Who?" "My sister, Maria. She was a single mother too, with twins, a boy and a girl, just like yours. She was too proud to ask our family for help when her husband left, too stubborn to accept what she saw as charity. I was young, stupid, focused on building my empire. I kept telling myself I'd help her tomorrow, next week, next month, but tomorrow never came for Maria." Alexander's voice broke slightly, and Sarah felt her heart clench with unexpected empathy for this stranger whose wealth couldn't buy back the thing he wanted most. She died in a car accident, an old car with faulty brakes she couldn't afford to fix. The twins, they were only 4, they went into foster care because I was traveling, unreachable, building deals that seemed so important at the time. He met Sarah's eyes directly. "I spend every day wondering what would have happened if I had just answered her calls, if I had just shown up when she needed someone to show up." Sarah felt tears pricking her eyes. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Sterling, but I don't understand what this has to do with me and my children." Your message, it could have been from Maria 15 years ago. The same desperation, the same love, the same fear of failing the people who matter most. Alexander stepped closer, his voice urgent now. "I can't save Maria, but I can help you. Emma's surgery. I've already contacted the best pediatric cardiac surgeon in the country, Dr. Catherine Chen at Children's Hospital. She's expecting your call." Sarah's world tilted. "I can't afford it's handled completely. The surgery, the recovery, any follow-up care Emma might need." Alexander continued before she could protest. "And I've paid your rent for the next 2 years, along with setting up an education fund for both twins that will cover everything through college." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She staggered backward, overwhelmed by the impossibility of what she was hearing. "Why would you do this? You don't even know us." "Because someone should have done it for Maria. Because your children deserve the same chances as any other children. Because you've proven you're the kind of mother who would sacrifice everything for her kids, and now you don't have to." Sarah broke down then, 15 months of held-back tears and suppressed terror flooding out in ugly, honest sobs. Alexander didn't try to comfort her with empty words or awkward pats. He simply stood there, a steady presence while she grieved for all the nights she had lain awake calculating impossible math, for all the meals she had skipped so the twins could eat, for all the times she had smiled at Emma and Ethan while her heart was shattering with fear. "There's one condition," Alexander said when her crying had subsided to hiccups. "I want to be involved in their lives, not as a replacement for anything, not trying to take over, but as someone who cares about their future. I want to take them to baseball games and help with homework and be there for school plays. I want to remember what it feels like to be part of a family again." Sarah looked up at this broken billionaire who had somehow found his way to her doorstep through a misdirected text message, and she saw something that surprised her: a hope, not just for her children's future, but for healing that might come from allowing someone else to care about the people she loved most. "The twins will have questions," she said quietly. "Then we'll answer them together, age-appropriately, honestly, but together." Alexander smiled for the first time since arriving. "I've been thinking about this since I got your message. Maybe some mistakes aren't really mistakes. Maybe they're just the universe's way of putting the right people in each other's paths when they need it most." As they rode up in the elevator to meet Emma and Ethan, Sarah reflected on how her life had changed in a single hour. Not just the practical changes, though Emma's surgery being scheduled and the rent being paid felt like miracles she was still processing, but the emotional shift from isolation to support, from carrying everything alone to sharing the load with someone who understood loss and wanted desperately to help prevent it. The twins woke easily, curious but not frightened by the gentle giant who knelt down to their level and introduced himself as a friend who wants to help. Emma, ever the protective sister despite being younger by 12 minutes, asked directly if he was going to make her mommy cry again. Ethan, with his mathematical mind already working, wanted to know if Alexander's limo had better gas mileage than their Honda. 6 months later, Emma's successful surgery was behind them, and the twins were thriving in their new school, their days filled with art classes and soccer practice instead of worry about whether there would be enough food for dinner. Sarah had been able to reduce her hours at the diner and was taking evening classes to become a nurse, a dream she had abandoned when the twins were born but that Alexander had encouraged her to pursue. But the most unexpected change was the friendship that had developed between Sarah and Alexander. What had started as gratitude had evolved into genuine companionship. They discovered shared loves of old movies and terrible puns, found comfort in conversations about parenting fears and childhood dreams deferred. Alexander proved to be surprisingly good at bedtime stories and surprisingly terrible at helping with math homework, despite his business acumen. The twins adored him. But more importantly, they understood him. They knew he was someone who had lost people he loved and had found, in their little family, a way to honor that love by giving it to someone new. They called him Uncle Alex and never questioned why Billionaire spent his Saturday mornings at their kitchen table sharing pancakes and listening to their dreams about becoming astronauts and veterinarians. On the anniversary of that life-changing text message, Sarah found herself thinking about fate and wrong numbers and how sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the most unexpected places. She had sent a message meant for her sister, born from desperation and exhaustion, and it had found its way to exactly the person who needed to receive it, someone whose own grief had prepared him to recognize and respond to her pain. That evening, as Alexander helped Emma with a school project about heroes while Ethan built elaborate structures with blocks nearby, Sarah realized that healing doesn't always look like fixing what's broken. Sometimes it looks like building something entirely new from the pieces that remain, creating a family that doesn't fit any traditional definition but that works perfectly for the people within it. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister. "How are you holding up? Still worried about Emma's follow-up appointment next week?" Sarah smiled as she typed back, "We're doing great, all of us. I'll tell you all about it when I see you." This time, she double-checked the number before hitting send, but part of her wondered if it would matter. Maybe the universe had a way of making sure the right messages found their way to the right people, regardless of the number on the screen.